Honourable Deputies and Ministers, colleagues and friends, it is a privilege to be able to contribute to these discussions today. Despite a wide and growing body of environmental laws around the world, we continue to witness destruction of habitats, loss of species, and exacerbation of global heating at a devastating rate. In large part, this is due to a long-standing cultural issue, developed over centuries in Western thinking, which has come to dominate the global economic paradigm. The issue of separation of ourselves from the natural world that sustains us. We do not easily perceive the need for balance, for reciprocity with respect to the living world. We have come to treat nature as an infinite bank of resources, a stance that we know to be illogical on a finite planet, but upon which our systems have already been built, and which has become our default modus operandi. What is the relevance of criminal law here? Criminal law is often thought of as a framework for punishment. Yes, that's indeed how it works, but that's not what it's for. Murder isn't a crime in order to punish murderers, it's a crime to stop people killing each other. Criminal law is what defines the things we deem unacceptable, the things we consider to be dangerous. Criminal law is protective law, it's what makes us safe. And the damage that our economic activity has inflicted on the living world around us in recent decades, while largely unintended, is extremely dangerous to climate, to nature, and to people. There are many environmental regulations around the world, but there is no great stigma attached to breaching regulations. This means they are often badly followed, woefully monitored, and poorly enforced. Multilateral environmental agreements like the Paris Agreement or the Kunming-Montreal Biodiversity Framework are not binding. So genuine action on sustainability and regeneration remains an uphill struggle against business as usual. And this is where ecocide law will be crucially useful. It strongly reinforces existing laws. A board of directors will approach its environmental obligations very differently, knowing that if it fails to fulfill them and threatens ecocide as a result, its members could be in criminal law territory, facing loss of personal freedom and reputation, as well as loss of company reputation and shareholder value. Ecocide law therefore helps to shift the cultural mindset and to draw new moral lines. When we place severe harm to nature at the same level as severe harm to people, we can better understand how serious it is and begin to recognize our profound responsibilities to the living world upon which we entirely depend. We can begin to make decisions in a far more conscious way. Industry and government need this law in order to bring into focus the outer boundaries of what is safe and acceptable to engage in. It is clear that there is political appetite for ecocide law. The proposed definition of ecocide as an international crime that emerged in 2021 from the independent expert panel convened by the Stop Ecocide Foundation has triggered extensive conversation around the world. And it is already being engaged with by dozens of governments, whether via motions, resolutions, parliamentary questions, petitions, white papers, or full proposals of law. In just the last few months, ecocide law proposals have been announced or put forward in Brazil, the Netherlands, Mexico, Italy, Scotland, and the UK. Belgium is on the verge of adopting ecocide into its revised penal code, and the EU has recently reached political agreement to include crimes comparable to ecocide in its revised Environmental Crimes Directive, with which, ultimately, all EU countries will be required to harmonise. It is therefore very timely for Catalonia to support domestic provision addressing ecocide as a serious crime. Recent reports recommending ecocide law have emerged from such influential quarters as the International Corporate Governance Network, established nearly 30 years ago by the world's most influential investors, with members managing 70 trillion in global assets. This organisation has twice issued statements advising all governments to legislate for ecocide. The Task Force on Nature Markets has described ecocide law as a promising development and a building block for environmental governance, while the UN Climate Champions, a coalition of major global businesses in all sectors, has highlighted ecocide law as a key driver and influencer of change. High-profile endorsers of ecocide law include Pope Francis, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, and High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk. The Council of Europe, with 46 member states, is now discussing ecocide in the context of a draft convention for the protection of the environment through criminal law, following an almost unanimous recommendation from its Parliamentary Assembly. Supporting resolutions have also been passed in the Parliamentary Assembly of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, 57 member states, and the Interparliamentary Union, 179 member states. What we are seeing here, therefore, is a clear legislative direction of travel, one that is, moreover, supported by a wide and growing range of international stakeholders, from youth groups to indigenous and faith leaders, lawyers and academics, and business and investment networks. Ecocide law presents both a concrete route to planetary security and a ground rule to level the playing field economically, one that goes beyond short-term electoral cycles and will help to steer a safe and just transition. I'm sure that Catalonia will be proud to be at the forefront of these crucial legal developments. Thank you.